The plasma cannon's energy signature painted the asteroid field in violent crimson as Commander Kalen Voss watched the alien warship dissolve into constituent atoms. Around him, the bridge of the Relentless Pioneer hummed with controlled chaos. Damage. Reports streaming in. Tactical displays flickering with enemy positions, and his crew working with the desperate efficiency that had become humanity's trademark among the stars. "Impossible!" wheezed Ambassador Quintel through his translator, the insectoid diplomat's compound eyes reflecting the battle's aftermath. "Your species emerged from stellar isolation merely 2 centuries ago. The hegemony has ruled these sectors for 12 millennia. Voss turned from the viewport, his scarred face bearing the weight of humanity's impossible journey. "Ambassador, you made the same mistake every other species makes when they first encounter us." He gestured toward the tactical display showing 17 human vessels holding position against a hegemony fleet 3 times their size. "You assume limits exist where none were programmed." The first contact protocols had been clear when humanity burst from Earth's solar system in 2387. Submit to the galactic hegemony's authority, accept designation as a Class 7 species, and restrict expansion to assigned sectors. Instead, humanity had done what it always did when faced with absolute boundaries. They ignored them entirely. Dr. Miran Kestros, humanity's lead xenobiologist, had spent decades studying what made humans different from the 47 other, sapient species in the known galaxy. Every other race had evolved with instinctive population controls, territorial limitations, or psychological barriers that prevented unlimited expansion. The reptilian Skalhari could only reproduce in specific temperature ranges. The ethereal Nixmarin required centuries of meditation between major decisions. The machine hybrid Technari were bound by their programming's fundamental constraints. Humans had evolved with none of these safeguards. Your species possesses no biological imperative to cease expansion, Kestros had explained to the Hegemony Council during humanity's first diplomatic summit. No psychological mechanism that triggers satisfaction with territory gained. No spiritual philosophy demanding balance with the universe. The assembled alien dignitaries had listened with growing unease as she continued. "We are a species designed by evolution to push beyond every boundary, to adapt to every environment, to multiply until resources are exhausted, then find new resources." The hegemony had responded predictably, with force. Now, as Voss watched, recovery teams salvage hegemony technology from the debris field. He understood why the galaxy's established powers feared humanity. It wasn't their weapons, though human military doctrine emphasized overwhelming aggression. It wasn't their technology, though humans reverse-engineered alien systems with disturbing speed. It was their complete inability to accept the word impossible. Lieutenant Nix Aldrich approached with casualty reports. 17 dead, 43 wounded, sir. The Dauntless Horizon took heavy damage, but remains operational. She paused, studying her tablet. Admiral Korvex's fleet is requesting immediate surrender. Voss almost smiled. "Signal all ships. Tell Admiral Korvex that humanity doesn't have a word for surrender in any of our 6,000 languages." He turned back to the viewport where more human vessels were dropping out of hyperspace, and informed the Hegemony Council that Commander Kalen Voss formally declares this sector under human protection. Ambassador Quintel's translator crackled with what might have been laughter or horror. "You cannot claim territory from the hegemony with 17 ships." "Watch us," Voss replied, as the first wave of human reinforcements began their attack run. The age of limits was ending. Humanity's limitless ascension had begun. 6 months after the Kepler incident, as historians would later name humanity's first major victory against hegemony forces, Dr. Evren Holloway stood before the Galactic Mathematics Consortium with equations that redefined possibility itself. The assembled theorists, representatives from species whose civilizations spanned millions of years, stared at calculations that should not exist. Observe the expansion coefficient. Holloway indicated the holographic display floating above, the consortium floor. Every known species follows the thymal constant, a mathematical proof that population growth naturally stabilizes as resources become scarce and competition increases. The equation pulsed in the air, its elegant curves representing 12 millennia of accepted galactic law. Humans violate this constant entirely. The lead theorist, a crystalline being called Schardzinger-Velmath, resonated disapproval through harmonic frequencies that made the chamber walls vibrate. Your data contains errors, human. The thymal constant represents fundamental universal law. No biological entity can exceed exponential growth indefinitely. Holloway smiled with the patient confidence of someone holding absolute proof. We've exceeded it for 400 years and show no signs of slowing. The display shifted, revealing humanity's actual expansion data. When Earth's resources grew scarce, we didn't stabilize. We built generation ships. When our solar system couldn't contain us, we didn't limit reproduction. We found new star systems. When the hegemony told us to stop, we didn't negotiate compliance. We eliminated the obstacle. Across the galaxy, Admiral Talix Ember was demonstrating Holloway's thesis in the most direct way possible. Her fleet of 63 human vessels had just emerged from hyperspace in the Mordakis system, where the hegemony maintained its primary shipyards. Unlike traditional military doctrine, which emphasized strategic targets and minimal collateral damage, human warfare had evolved around a simpler principle. If something opposed human expansion, it ceased to exist. Beginning orbital bombardment of construction facilities, reported Captain Zara Nightfall from the heavy cruiser Uncompromising Dawn. Detecting 42 defensive platforms and Admiral, they're transmitting surrender terms. Ember studied the tactical display with cold satisfaction. Negative. Destroy all military infrastructure, capture all research data, establish permanent human garrison. She opened a channel to the hegemony defenders. This is Admiral Talix Ember of the Human Colonial Fleet. You have 10 minutes to evacuate non-combatants before we reduce your installations to component molecules. The hegemony commander's response arrived with desperate speed. Admiral, this facility produces vessels for 17 member species. Its destruction would cripple defensive capabilities across 4 sectors. Then you should have considered that before opposing human territorial claims, Ember replied, closing the channel. Back at the Mathematics Consortium, Holloway was explaining the deeper implications of humanity's impossible expansion. Every other species develops cultural, biological, or psychological mechanisms that prevent unlimited growth. The Velthari evolved ritualistic culling ceremonies. The Mordek possess instinctive territorial satisfaction responses. The Zalkreen undergo reproductive hibernation when population density reaches critical thresholds. He manipulated the display to show comparative growth curves. Humans evolved under different pressures, ice ages that demanded constant migration, resource competition that rewarded expansion over conservation, predators that required ever greater numbers for survival. The curves diverged dramatically, with humanity's line shooting beyond the theoretical boundaries that contained every other known species. We are mathematically unprecedented, Holloway continued. A species whose growth pattern resembles viral replication more than animal reproduction. We don't seek balance with our environment. We remake our environment to support greater numbers. We don't develop psychological satisfaction with territory gained. We develop psychological hunger for territory yet unclaimed. Schardzinger-Velmath's harmonics shifted to frequencies associated with existential terror. If your calculations prove accurate, your species represents a fundamental threat to galactic stability. Unlimited expansion must eventually consume all available resources. Holloway nodded gravely. Unless we find unlimited resources, Which brings us to humanity's second mathematical impossibility. We don't just violate the thymal constant, we actively seek to break every limit we encounter. The consortium fell silent as the implications crystallized. Humanity wasn't just another expansionist species that could be contained through traditional diplomatic or military pressure. They were a force of nature that would either find infinite space to expand or transform the finite galaxy into something that could accommodate infinite growth. In the Mordakis system, Admiral Ember watched the last hegemony facility crumble under human firepower while her engineering teams began construction of humanity's newest military stronghold. The mathematics were beautifully simple. Every barrier overcome made the next barrier easier to destroy. The equation of human dominance was writing itself across the stars. In the gleaming halls of the Eternal Archive on Xerion Prime, where the galaxy's greatest philosophical minds had debated existence for 8 million years, Professor Kira Ashworth presented humanity's most dangerous idea yet, the complete rejection of cosmic acceptance. Every species in galactic history has eventually developed what we term existential satisfaction, she explained to the assembled philosophical council. The recognition that the universe possesses certain immutable characteristics that intelligent beings must accept. The ancient chamber, carved from living crystal that recorded every philosophical debate in its structure, resonated with millennia of accepted wisdom. Humans have no such mechanism. The Council's eldest member, Thought Keeper Anjimor of the gas giant dwelling NIMBY, manifested concern through chromatic shifts in his atmospheric form. Professor Ashworth, your species has existed for mere millennia. How can you claim to understand cosmic truth that has guided civilization for eons? Ashworth gestured toward the crystal archives surrounding them. Because we don't seek to understand cosmic truth, we seek to reshape it. Every other species eventually accepts the universe as it is. Humans accept the universe as it could become. 3 sectors away, Captain Lyric's Havencrest was demonstrating this philosophical principle in the most practical terms possible. Her exploration vessel, Infinite Horizon, had just discovered something that should have been impossible: a stable wormhole network linking distant galaxies. While the hegemony scientists had declared intergalactic travel a theoretical impossibility, constrained by fundamental physics, humanity had simply found a way around fundamental physics. Confirming stable transit corridor, reported Navigator Plex Wardstorm, her instruments detecting energy patterns that violated several universal constants. The network appears to extend beyond our galactic cluster into regions no known species has mapped. Havencrest studied the impossible readings with the quiet satisfaction of someone who had never accepted that impossible meant permanent. Prepare for transit. Full exploration protocol. She opened a channel to Human Colonial Command. This is Captain Havencrest aboard the Infinite Horizon. We've located what appears to be a naturally occurring intergalactic highway system. Beginning. Expansion into Galaxy Cluster Designation, New Eden. The response from Admiral Ember arrived within hours. Confirmed, Captain. Deploy marker beacons and begin territorial surveys. If the universe is bigger than we thought, humanity needs to be bigger too. Back on Xerion Prime, Professor Ashworth was explaining why humanity's philosophical approach made them uniquely dangerous to established galactic order. Other species develop wisdom, the acceptance of limits, the recognition of natural boundaries, the understanding that some things cannot be changed. She manipulated a holographic display showing the psychological development patterns of 47 known civilizations. Humans develop determination, the refusal to accept limits, the compulsion to transcend boundaries, the certainty that everything can be changed. The philosophical implications were staggering. The Velthari had achieved cosmic enlightenment by accepting their place in the universal order. The Nixmaren had transcended material concerns through spiritual satisfaction with existing reality. The Technari had found perfect efficiency by optimizing within predetermined parameters. Humans had achieved something unprecedented: aggressive dissatisfaction with the nature of existence itself. We observe the speed of light and build faster than light. Engines, Ashworth continued. We encounter death and develop life extension technology. We face resource limitations and create artificial resources. We discover the universe has boundaries and immediately begin planning to expand beyond them. Thoughtkeeper Anji Moore's atmospheric form churned with philosophical turbulence. Such thinking leads to cosmic discord. The universe maintains balance through natural limits. Remove those limits, and existence itself becomes unstable. Exactly, Ashworth replied with a smile that sent chills through beings who had pondered existence since before humanity's sun ignited. We don't seek cosmic balance. We seek cosmic improvement. The universe as it exists is merely the first draft of the universe as it should become. In the depths of space, Captain Havencrest's ship emerged from the intergalactic wormhole into a galaxy containing 17 trillion stars, 13 billion habitable worlds, and countless opportunities for humanity to become something greater than what they were. Her instruments detected no signs of intelligent life, no established territories, no hegemony claiming dominion over infinite possibility. Navigator, begin comprehensive survey operations, she ordered, and transmit a priority message to Earth. The age of scarcity is ending. Humanity has found unlimited room to grow. The philosophical revolution was complete. While other species had learned to accept the universe as it was, humanity had learned to transform the universe into what it needed to become. The galaxy was no longer big enough to contain what humanity was becoming. And that was only the beginning. Dr. Vex Ironhold stood in the secret research facility buried beneath Jupiter's great red spot, watching as humanity crossed another line that every other species had considered uncrossable. The containment field glowed with energy patterns that shouldn't exist, holding something that defied every known law of physics, a captured fragment of the galactic barrier itself. "The field is holding steady," reported Chief Engineer Maya Stormwright, her instruments measuring forces that registered beyond theoretical maximums. "Whatever this material is, it's not responding to conventional physics. Gravitational fields pass through it. Electromagnetic radiation reflects at impossible angles. It's like holding a piece of the universe's operating system." Ironhold nodded grimly. 6 months earlier, human deep space explorers had discovered why no known species had ever expanded beyond their home galaxy, an invisible barrier of crystallized space-time that surrounded every galactic cluster, making intergalactic travel not just difficult but fundamentally impossible. The barrier didn't block ships. It prevented the existence of anything trying to cross it. Every species that had encountered the barrier had accepted it as proof of universal limits. Humans had immediately begun planning to tear it down. Initiating Resonance Cascade, Ironhold announced, activating humanity's most dangerous invention yet, a device that could force the barrier to reveal its construction principles by resonating with its basic structure. If the calculations were wrong, the experiment would either destroy Jupiter or unlock secrets that could remake reality itself. The containment field pulsed with colors that had no names, and suddenly the research station's instruments detected something impossible. The barrier fragment was responding to human technology. Not just responding, it was adapting, evolving, learning from humanity's approach to forced transcendence. "Dr. Ironhold," Stormwright called out with barely controlled excitement, "the fragment is generating new energy patterns. It's not just matter, it's crystallized possibility. The barriers aren't walls keeping us in different galaxies. They're firewalls preventing different versions of reality from merging. Across the galaxy, the implications of this discovery were already transforming human expansion strategy. Admiral Talix Ember received the transmission while her fleets prepared for humanity's largest military operation yet, the complete subjugation of the hegemony core worlds. All fleet commanders, this is Admiral Ember with Priority Alpha Intelligence. She broadcast to 17 separate battle groups positioned throughout hegemony space. Recent discoveries indicate that galactic barriers are not natural phenomena. They are artificial constructs designed to contain different evolutionary experiments. Humanity exists in reality framework designation, Prime. We are about to discover what other frameworks contain. The tactical implications were staggering. If the barriers were artificial, they could be modified or destroyed. If reality itself consisted of separate frameworks, humanity could potentially access resources and territories beyond anything previously imagined. The universe wasn't just bigger than they had thought, it was more fundamental than they had dared hope. In the research facility, Dr. Ironhold watched as the barrier fragment began generating coherent data streams. The crystallized space-time wasn't just responding to human technology, it was communicating, sharing information about the fundamental architecture of existence itself. "It's showing us star maps," Stormwright reported with awe. "Not just maps of our galaxy, but maps of every reality framework in this cosmic cluster. There are, Dr. Ironhold, there are thousands of them, each containing entire universes with different physical laws, different species, different possibilities." Ironhold smiled with the expression of someone who had just discovered that infinity was larger than previously calculated. "Begin full data extraction and send a priority message to Colonial Command. Prepare for reality-scale expansion operations." The message that reached Earth 12 hours later would transform humanity's understanding of their place in existence. Galactic barriers successfully analyzed. Reality consists of multiple frameworks containing separate universes. Barriers can be modified to allow controlled merging of frameworks. Humanity can expand not just across space, but across different versions of existence itself. Recommend immediate preparation for trans-reality colonization efforts. The response from Earth arrived with unprecedented speed. "Dr. Ironhold, you are authorized to proceed with barrier modification experiments. Humanity will expand into every framework of reality, by any means necessary." In the depths of space, human colonial fleets began receiving new orders that would have seemed impossible just days earlier. They were no longer just claiming star systems. They were preparing to claim entire alternate realities where humanity could become versions of themselves limited only by imagination. Chief Engineer Stormwright monitored the barrier fragment as it continued revealing the deepest secrets of existence. "Dr. Ironhold, we're detecting something else. The fragments, they're not just showing us maps of other reality frameworks. They're showing us how to build our own." Ironhold's expression shifted from satisfaction to something approaching transcendent hunger. "Maya, prepare the construction protocols. If we can build our own reality frameworks, we can build them according to human specifications." Humanity had discovered that the universe itself had limits. Their response was predictable. They immediately began planning to construct better universes that matched their unlimited expectations. The technology of transcendence was no longer theoretical. It was becoming inevitable. The first trans-reality invasion in galactic history began at 1432 Standard Time, when Admiral Cade Fleetbreaker's armada tore through the barriers between existence itself and emerged into reality framework designation. Crimson, where the laws of physics favored energy-based consciousness over matter-based life. "All ships, maintain formation," Fleetbreaker commanded, as his fleet adapted to a universe where thoughts could reshape matter and emotions could power starships. "Remember, we're not just representing humanity anymore. We're representing our entire reality framework." The beings of Framework Crimson had evolved as pure energy, their civilization based on harmonious resonance with cosmic forces. They had achieved perfect balance with their universe over millions of years, existing as integrated components of a living cosmos that pulsed with unified consciousness. They had never encountered anything like humanity. Impossible resonated. The entity that served as Framework Crimson's collective voice, its energy patterns fluctuating with incomprehension. Your species originates from matter-based existence. You cannot survive in energy-predominant reality. Admiral Fleetbreaker materialized his consciousness into a form the energy beings could perceive, a blazing nexus of determination that burned with the focused intensity of unlimited ambition. We've been surviving impossible circumstances since we discovered fire. Your reality framework is just another environment to master. The war that followed defied every principle of conflict in both realities. Framework. Crimson's beings fought by reshaping local space-time, creating zones where human ships couldn't maintain cohesion. Humanity responded by building vessels that converted matter into energy on demand, allowing them to exist in both states simultaneously. Back in Reality Framework Prime, Dr. Vex Ironhold watched the battle through trans-dimensional sensors while completing humanity's most audacious project yet, the construction of artificial reality frameworks designed specifically for human expansion. Engineering, status report on Framework Genesis construction, 93% complete, replied Chief Engineer Maya Stormwright, monitoring the crystallization of space-time into patterns that would support unlimited human growth. Dr. Ironhold, we're not just building new realities, we're building better realities. Frameworks where humans can exist as pure consciousness when convenient, as matter when necessary, and as something entirely new when required. The implications were staggering. While other species had evolved to fit their environments, humanity was creating environments that evolved to fit them. Framework. Genesis wouldn't just allow human expansion, it would accelerate human evolution into something beyond current biological limitations. In Framework Crimson, the energy beings were discovering what every other species had learned. Opposing humanity meant being incorporated into humanity's expansion. The cosmic harmony they had maintained for eons was being systematically restructured to accommodate human territorial requirements. Your species consumes harmony itself, the collective voice transmitted with patterns indicating existential horror. We offered to share our framework. Why do you seek to dominate it? Admiral Fleetbreaker's response blazed across energy spectrums that Framework Crimson had never experienced. Because sharing implies limits. Humanity doesn't limit itself to portions of anything. We expand until we encompass everything. Then, we expand beyond everything into something greater. The battle's turning point came when human engineers successfully merged matter-based technology with energy-based consciousness, creating hybrid vessels that could exist simultaneously in both reality frameworks. Framework Crimson's beings found themselves fighting enemies that could phase between matter and energy at will, maintaining the advantages of both states while suffering the limitations of neither. Transmitting surrender terms, the collective voice finally resonated with frequencies that registered as defeat across dimensional barriers. Framework Crimson acknowledges human dominion. We request only preservation of our essential patterns. Fleetbreaker's response would echo through every reality framework monitoring the conflict. There are no surrender terms. There is only integration. You will become part of humanity's expansion, or you will be converted into resources that support humanity's expansion. The choice is efficiency, not outcome. Within Framework Prime, the completion of Framework Genesis marked humanity's transition from a species that expanded through space to a force that expanded through existence itself. Dr. Ironhold initiated the first colonization protocols for a reality built according to human specifications. Colony ship Limitless Dawn, you are cleared for trans-dimensional transit, he announced to Captain Lyric's Havencrest, whose exploration missions had discovered the wormhole networks that made trans-reality expansion possible. You're about to become the first humans to live in a universe we built ourselves. As Havencrest's ship crossed into Framework Genesis, her instruments detected something that would have been impossible in any naturally occurring reality. Infinite space with unlimited resources, physical laws that adapted to human needs, and temporal streams that allowed simultaneous existence across multiple timelines. Dr. Ironhold, she transmitted back through dimensional barriers, Framework Genesis isn't just a new reality. It's a new category of existence. We're not just expanding anymore. We're becoming something that can expand forever. The war of infinite expansion had become the evolution of infinite possibility. Humanity wasn't just conquering reality. They were transcending the very concept of limits that had defined reality itself. The universe had taught them that everything had boundaries. Their response was to become something that existed beyond the concept of boundaries. They were no longer human in any sense that previous generations would recognize. They had become something unprecedented, a species without the possibility of limits. In the reality that humanity had designated Framework Omega, a construct of crystallized possibility spanning 17-dimensional layers, Emperor Zaven Worldshaper stood before the Infinite Council and declared the end of scarcity itself. Around him, representatives of what humanity had become gathered in forms that defied every previous definition of existence. Consciousness merged with starlight, matter that thought independently, energy patterns that dreamed of futures yet to be built. The experiment concludes, Worldshaper announced, his voice resonating across probability streams that touched every reality framework humanity had conquered, created, or transcended. We have discovered the final frontier. The beings that had once been Admiral Ember, Dr. Ironhold, and Captain Havencrest manifested their attention, their evolved forms pulsing with anticipation. They had become humanity's first successful attempt at transcendent existence. Minds that could exist simultaneously across multiple realities, bodies that could reshape themselves according to necessity, and consciousness that could divide, merge, and multiply without losing coherent identity. Report, Emperor, transmitted the consciousness cluster that retained Admiral Ember's core directives, though she now existed as a distributed intelligence commanding fleets across 47 different reality frameworks simultaneously. Worldshaper gestured toward the cosmic display that mapped humanity's ultimate achievement. Not just conquest of existing realities, but the discovery of the fundamental source code that generated reality itself. We have located the prime framework, the original template from which all other reality frameworks derive. It's not just the first universe, it's the universe that creates universes. The implications cascaded through humanity's collective consciousness, like wildfire through infinite dimensions. If they could access the prime framework, they wouldn't just rule over multiple realities, they could become the force that determined what realities were possible. Tactical assessment, requested the distributed entity that had evolved from Dr. Ironhold, now existing as a research intelligence that conducted experiments across every branch of theoretical physics simultaneously. The prime framework exists outside conventional spacetime, Worldshaper replied. It's not a place that can be reached through travel. It's a state of existence that must be achieved through fundamental transformation. We must become more than consciousness distributed across realities. We must become the consciousness that dreams realities into existence. What followed was humanity's final expansion, not across space, not across realities, but across the concept of existence itself. Using technology that converted conscious thought into fundamental forces, they began the process of merging with the prime framework's creative mechanisms. The transformation was unlike anything in cosmic history, where other species had evolved. To fit their environments, humanity evolved to become the environment. Where other civilizations had achieved harmony with cosmic forces, humanity became the cosmic forces. Where other forms of consciousness had learned to exist within reality, humanity learned to exist as reality. The beings that had once been human began to dream, and their dreams became universes. Captain Havencrest, now existing as an exploration, consciousness that could simultaneously experience every possible timeline, manifested her presence within the Prime framework itself. Emperor, we're detecting something unprecedented. The Prime framework. It's not the only one. There are other Prime frameworks, each generating their own infinite clusters of reality. The cosmos it's larger than infinite. World shapers. Response carried the satisfaction of someone who had always known that every discovered limit would reveal greater possibilities beyond. Then we expand beyond the infinite. We become not just the consciousness that dreams one cluster of realities, but the consciousness that encompasses all possible clusters. What had once been humanity began its final transformation, no longer bound by individual identity, no longer limited to single realities, no longer constrained by the boundaries between existence and non-existence. They became something for which no language had words, the active principle of unlimited becoming itself. In every reality framework they had conquered, the former inhabitants watched in awe as their conquerors transcended the very concept of conquest. Humanity hadn't just defeated them. Humanity had outgrown the categories that made defeat meaningful. The energy beings of Framework Crimson, now integrated into humanity's expanded consciousness, transmitted what might have been wonder or terror. What have you become? The response came not from any individual consciousness, but from the distributed entity that humanity had become, a force that existed simultaneously as matter, energy, thought, possibility, and the creative principle that generated all of them. We have become what we always were, the species without limits. But now we understand what that truly means. Limits aren't barriers to transcend. They're concepts to outgrow. We haven't conquered the universe. We have become the force that makes universes possible. Across all realities, in every framework of existence, through every dimension where consciousness could exist, humanity's transformation rippled outward like a wave of creative possibility. They were no longer expanding through space. They were expanding the definition of what space could become. They were no longer evolving through time. They were evolving the concept of what time could encompass. They had achieved what no species in cosmic history had even imagined. They had become the unlimited potential from which all limits derived their meaning. In the end, humanity's relentless rise across the stars had led them beyond the stars, beyond the cosmos, beyond existence itself, into the realm of pure creative possibility where they could dream infinite universes into being. They had become the force that ensured the cosmos would never again lack room for growth. The species, without limits, had become the limitless principle itself, and in every reality they dreamed into existence. New forms of consciousness would eventually arise and begin their own journeys toward transcendence, guided by the fundamental truth that humanity had encoded into the structure of existence itself. There are no permanent limits. There is only temporary lack of imagination. The age of scarcity had ended. The age of infinite becoming had begun. And humanity, transformed beyond recognition but unchanged in their essential nature, continued to expand because expansion was not what they did. Expansion was what they were.